All right, so it's 6 o'clock, so why don't we get started with tonight's public hearing. Welcome. Today is April 11th, 2022, and it is now 6 p.m. My name is John Lake, supervisor with the DEM, Division of Marine Fisheries. I'm here tonight to officiate this hearing regarding proposed amendments to Rhode Island fisheries regulations on behalf of Acting DEM Director Terry Gray. With me tonight from the division are Nicole Costa and Peter Duhamel. Tonight's hearing concerns proposed amendments to the division's commercial licensing regulations, which were publicly noticed on March 28, 2022. Pursuant to the procedural requirements of Rhode Island General Law, Chapter 42-33, Administrative Procedures, and the Office of the Rhode Island Secretary of State, and under the authority of RIDEM General Law, Chapters 42-17.1. The purpose of this hearing is to afford interested parties an opportunity to provide oral testimony, data, opinions, and/or arguments concerning the proposed rulemaking. This rule change seeks to accomplish the following matters: adopt changes to sync the rule with recently amended statute, namely that of new license and endorsement types and fees; reorganize the rule for improved clarity and readability; establish a placeholder exit-entry ratio for new unlimited shellfish endorsement, and establish a placeholder rule for the new multi-purpose vessel license. It is important to note that this rule change has no bearing until new licenses are available for issuance beginning 1/1/2023, with the exception of transfers. Upon adoption of the amended changes, this matter will be immediately revisited as part of the division's regular annual review of these rules, with a workshop scheduled for July of this year and a hearing and council meeting to follow. This is not a forum for new proposals concerning the new legislation that will be followed up in the fall. That will be done at a series of workshops in the late summer and fall. For tonight's hearing, the following process will be observed. The division will provide a PowerPoint presentation summarizing each of the main proposals. Persons wishing to speak must raise their hand and be recognized by the hearing officer prior to speaking. Speakers must first state their name and/or affiliation for the record. This hearing is not a forum for discussing, debating, arguing, or otherwise having any dialogue. Any questions must be limited to clarifying questions only. A second comment may be made only after all other speakers have had an opportunity to speak. Once oral comments are complete, the hearing will conclude. Written comments are strongly encouraged and may be submitted until the end of the notice comment period at 4 p.m. on Tuesday, April 26th. Division staff are available to answer any questions regarding any of these proposals. The record of this public hearing and comments will be provided to the Rhode Island Marine Fisheries Council at their meeting on April the 26th, at which time the council will provide a recommendation to the director on each item. Please be advised that this hearing is being recorded and will be made available on the division's webpage tomorrow. After the comment period is closed, and the council meeting has taken place, the director will render his final decisions. The director has the option to file the rules and regulations with the Secretary of State as noticed, file the rules and regulations with minor changes, or not file the rule and consider renoticing with or without additional amendments. If filed, these rules and regulations will become effective 20 days after filing and have the effect of law. Prior to hearing comments, the following exhibits are noted for the record. Exhibit 1 is a copy of the public notice and proposed regulations that were filed with the Secretary of State on January the 26th, 2022. Exhibit 2 is a copy of the slides presented at tonight's hearing. Exhibit 3 is a written comment submitted concerning the proposed aggregate
No written comments, John.
No written comments, yeah, thank you, sir.
No exhibits.
That's for last time. So without further ado, let's get started with the slides. All right, so by way of background, we had some legislation passed this year, last year, which restructured our commercial license types. This rule will really kick in January of 2023 when we start issuing new licenses. So what the law did is it amended our old structure. If you recall, our old structure had several license types, two of which were related. One was called the principal effort license, the other called the commercial fishing license. This was a tiered structure based on basic and full level of harvest. Those have been eliminated, and now they are being replaced with a standard fishing license. So there are no longer two levels of licensure. There is just one standard fishing license. It's important to note the multi-purpose license remained unchanged. It is not affected besides the fee with this legislation. The legislation did create a new multi-purpose vessel license, and again, proposed regulations will be discussed at a subsequent workshop in 2022. Date to be determined, likely in late July. There are new fees, which we will go over later in the presentation. So, if you recall, our old license, our old PEL and CFL licenses had endorsements hanging off them, which allowed you to participate in the various three fishery sectors: shellfish, crustacean, and finfish. The old structure had restricted and non-restricted species. In the case of lobster and finfish, we had lobster and non-lobster endorsements, and restricted finfish and non-restricted finfish, restricted finfish being the quota species. Shellfish was a little different. We had species-specific endorsements for those, for quahog, softshell clam, whelk, and shellfish other. And one of the reasons that drove this change was people that had just the way the fees worked out, people that had a PEL license with all of the shellfish endorsement types were actually paying more than a multi-purpose license. So the new legislation created a new structure which has endorsements for each of the three fishery sectors: finfish, shellfish, and crustacean. But instead of having restricted and restricted and non-restricted, you are either going to be issued a unlimited or limited fishery endorsement. An unlimited fishery endorsements means you can participate in that fishery sector with no limits, meaning you can harvest all of the species in that sector. A limited endorsement would restrict you to only a certain suite of species. So think to our finfish. Well, I'll get into it at another slide. The other thing that this new rule we'll have to address with the new rule is that we also now have a new exit-entry ratio for our unlimited shellfish endorsement. In the past, we handled exit and entry ratios for the shellfish sector a little differently. We had an exit-entry ratio for the quahog endorsements, and we had a different entry-exit ratio for softshell clam. We'll get to that at a later slide. So just to visualize these, next slide, please. So just to visualize these changes, here's the structure as I described. You have a standard license. You can have any of the three fisheries sector endorsements hanging off of that license or a combination of them, and those break into either an unlimited or a limited endorsement. One thing to note, you do not, so the old structure, if you wanted to have all the species in a sector, you needed both endorsements. For this one, you can only have one on the license, either limited, so you're either limited or you're unlimited. That's how it works. You only need to have one per sector. Then at the bottom, this is just to illustrate that the multi-purpose license has not changed. You can still participate in all three sectors at an unlimited level. Next slide, please. So let's go through each of the endorsements and their applicability. Unlimited finfish authorize the commercial harvest of all species, finfish and squid, unless specifically prohibited for harvest, so no prohibited species. The limited finfish would authorize a commercial harvest of all species of finfish and squid, unless otherwise prohibited, with the exception of black sea bass, summer flounder, striped bass, tautog, and scup during the summer period, May 1st to September 30th. So once again, unlimited, you can have all of the quota species. Limited, you cannot. Unlimited shellfish authorizes the harvest of all commercial shellfish species by residents. Whereas limited authorized the commercial harvest of all species of shellfish by residents, excluding bay quahog, softshell clam, and whelk. So basically, unlimited shellfish is like having all of the there's a good shellfish endorsements under the old structure, and the limited shellfish basically is the shellfish other endorsement. Unlimited crustacean allows the commercial harvest of all species of crustacean by residents, and limited crustacean authorizes the commercial harvest of all species of crustacean, excluding lobster. So once again, this is almost exactly like the old crustacean endorsements, with the exception now you only have to carry one. Unlimited if you want lobster and crab, or limited, you're limited to just crab. Next slide. Okay, so I'm just going to go through each of these just so everyone can be clear on what they would get under the new system. A PEL with restricted finfish would receive a standard license with unlimited finfish. A CFL or PEL, non-restricted finfish endorsement, would receive a limited finfish endorsement. A CFL PEL with either quahog and or softshell clam and or whelk would receive a standard license with unlimited shellfish endorsement. So to be clear, if you had a CFL license with just soft shell on it, you are now getting an unlimited shellfish license. Or if you had a PEL with just whelk, you are now getting an unlimited license. Likewise with quahog, if you just had a quahog, you are now getting unlimited. CFL PEL with shellfish other endorsement, you'll be issued the standard license with the limited endorsement. CFL PEL lobster crustacean endorsement, you will now receive a standard license with unlimited crustacean endorsement. A CFL PEL non-lobster crustacean endorsement will receive a standard license with the limited crustacean endorsement. So CFL PEL with quahog endorsement for persons under 65 years old, you will receive a standard license with unlimited shellfish. CFL PEL with quahog endorsements for persons over 65 years old. I'm going to get into it in another slide, but you have the option to either keep your unlimited shellfish endorsement, or you may avail yourself of a no-fee over 65 quahog only license. Once again, only one fishery endorsement is issued for each sector is issued per license, either the limited or the unlimited. Next slide, please. So once again, a lot of the changes are occurring in the shellfish sector. So I just wanted to go over one of the changes. So shellfish was the only license in our old structure that was still functioning at basic and full harvest levels, specifically in the quahog fishery. If you had a CFL license with a quahog endorsement, you are limited to 3 bushels of quahogs per day, whereas if you had the PEL with quahog, you were allowed to get the full 12 bushels per day. That is changing. There's no longer a CFL quahog endorsement. Anyone with a CFL quahog endorsement will be issued a standard license with unlimited shellfish, and the possession limit for that license is 12 bushels per day. The other licenses, I'll go through them, but the limits are staying the same. PL with quahog endorsements, still 12 bushels per day. That's now a standard license with unlimited shellfish. Student shellfish is, nothing has changed about that. That's still a 3 bushel per day license. 3 bushel per day quahog only license. Over 65 license, nothing has changed there. It's still a 3 bushel per day quahog only license. Likewise, multi-purpose license has not changed. It is still a 12 bushel per day limit for quahog. Okay, so once again though, rules that exist in our shellfish management areas, which limit you to either 3 or 6 in the case of the Providence River, are still in effect for all license types. Okay, so I mentioned before, once again, that we had changes really are more being seen in the shellfish sector here. We do have a exit entry ratio to allow more people into the fishery by issuing new licenses. That's all changed because, like I said, we used to do them a little separately for the 3 restricted endorsements. So the old structure had quahog at a 1-to-1 exit entry ratio. That means 1 in for every 1 that retires their license. Softshell clam was at a 5-to-1 exit entry ratio, meaning 5 softshell clams licenses need to exit for 1 to be issued. And the whelk endorsement, in order to get a whelk endorsement, you have to be holding a quahog or softshell clam endorsement to be eligible for the whelk. So right now we are proposing a placeholder of a 1-to-1 ratio for the unlimited shellfish endorsement, just to get us to the end of the year. Those familiar with our cycle know that come the meeting that we do in the fall, we discuss the exit entry ratios for both shellfish and the finfish licenses. We will still be doing that same process. This one-to-one is just so we can file the ratio in regulation. We have to put something in there. It's going to start at 1-to-1. After the discussions, we can change it if needed for shellfish. So once again, this rule has no bearing until the new licenses are available. And 1/1/2023, the matter will be immediately revisited and subject to amendment as part of the regular review. Hearing is planned for September 2022. Next slide, please. The other change that is happening, once again in shellfish, so by changing the structure and eliminating the specific endorsement types, there is a consequence here for the CFL PEO COHOG endorsements for people over 65 years old. Right now, there is a reg in effect that allows for the CFL PEL license with the COHOG endorsements to be free of charge for the over 65 license holder. Well, the COHOG endorsement, that was eliminated. So that license type no longer is in effect. So there's no longer a provision for it to be a no-fee license. So like I mentioned before, if you're over 65, you may still hold on to that license. You'll just have to pay a fee. You'll see on the next slide, the fee is $300. Or, as always, over 65 folks can get themselves a free license, but the only trade-off there is you're limited to the 3 bushels per day. Next slide. And so I'm not going to go through each fee. I'll leave this up on the screen. The fees have changed. And one thing they have done is made it so it's a level playing field. If you have every fishery sector endorsement unlimited on your license, it is the same cost as a multi-purpose license. So that was the goal here. You see that we do have different fees for resident and non-resident, and there is the multi-purpose vessel license there as well, $8,000. So those are all my slides, and we can just leave that one up. So now I'll open up the hearing for comments. Any comments on the proposed regulation, which to bring our licensing regulations in line with the general law? Anybody online, Nicole?
I don't see anybody raising their hand right now.
All right. Okay, so having no comments online or from the audience, we will, since there are no further comments to be presented at this time, on behalf of the Department of Environmental Management, I would like to thank you for attending and for your comments. At this time, I declare this public hearing to be closed. Thank you. So that's it for the hearing. If I can answer any questions for you guys, happy to do it.